the fact that all your stuff is Finnish, what do you think makes Parola unique?
Well, we have a very good collection of the most of the tanks which were used and operated during the Second World War, especially the Russian models. Not all the German ones, because for example the Panthers and Tigers are not here, but Sturmgeschütz and Panzer IV, etc. are still here. So the collection covers quite wide perspective of Second World War era tanks.
Gotcha. Okay, well, why don't we start there then? Why don't we start touring around the museum and you can give us the background of the Finnish armour history and
let's do that one. So we have to go inside and go through the both exhibition halls up to the ridge in order to get familiar with those ones.
Okay.
Let's talk about more then.
All right. Okay, so let's start then at the start. So actually, let's start even further. So is the Armour Corps in Finland considered a descendant of the cavalry, or is it entirely different branch?
No, it's part of the infantry, in fact.
Okay.
So the armored forces or tank forces are not independent arms of service or branch.
Okay.
So that was going to be the first start. So here in the background you can see our first tank, for example, the French-made First World War era tank. That was the first ones we bought those ones in 1919 from France. And that was a kick-off the armor force and the purpose, the concept, how they are going to be used in Finnish army was precisely a support tank for the infantry, nothing else.
Right. So that wasn't too unusual. A lot of countries were doing that at the time.
Yeah.
It was a support tank. But so it never really changed? It's all, the tanks even today, the Leopard is really an infantry support weapon?
Yeah, well, it took a change in the later years of the Second World War in 1944 actually.
Okay.
Then the tank forces were more or less an independent. Of course they needed supporting infantry soldiers with them in the terrain like we have in Finland, a lot of forest and water and etc. You can't operate alone with tanks. That's obvious in everywhere else as well, if I'm not totally mistaken on those ones.
Right. Okay, so you have the FTs. Did they all have the cannon, or did you have the mix like the French did of cannon and machine gun?
Both. We had almost 32 of those ones, so half of these ones were equipped with the gun or cannon, and the rest was nothing but machine guns.
Gotcha.
And that was a concept then.
And were they all consolidated in one battalion, or would you have like one platoon with a battalion of infantry?
Yeah, when the tanks came in, the first tank regiment, it was called, that time was established. Although it didn't match with the size of the regiment, there was far too less amount of the tank, so it was a battalion size.
Okay.
And it was located on the island just outside our capital, Helsinki. Can you imagine? From operational point of view, that was a disaster.
You're talking about that little fortress island you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Precisely. And it was somebody was starting to think in our high command of that time that, hey, here is something wrong now. If the bells are ringing, these tanks, they stay here in the island, because at that time there wasn't any bridge of that one for those ones as well. But as mentioned, some guys started to think that let's relocate this regiment somewhere else inland. And the decision was that, okay, it's going to be 100 kilometers further north from Helsinki in town of Hämeenlinna.
Yeah, we're just south of us here now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the solution, and that took place already.
How were the first? How were the first people identified? How were they selected to be tankers? Do you know?
Well, I'm not extremely sure, but first of all, you have to have as a tanker, that kind of people who understand something about the engines and motors.
Okay.
And they can handle with tools. And that was one of the main prerequisites to meet if you are going to be a tanker. And I don't know about the tank commanders, what was conditions to meet with these people, but most probably a little bit more clever.
So how familiar would the average Finnish person have been with a motor? I mean, was Finland considered a motorized society? Were there a lot of trucks in the army?
Well, that time, more than 100 years ago, Finland was nothing but doing with the earth.
Okay.
So what I mean,
Very
mostly
agricultural society.
agriculture, farmers mostly. Not that much engines, automobiles or anything like that one. Some lorries or trucks, of course, but mostly no. No knowledge about the engine. So it was a heavy start, so to speak.
And did armored cars come in as well with the tanks?
Yeah, later on,
So the tanks came first and then you got armored cars?
yes, that was the order. The armored cars came in mid-1920s, first ones into Finland, and during the Winter War it was